Hold up. Let me make sure we good on this side. Let me turn down this fan for a sec, and we'll be right back. Yeah. Make sure you like, subscribe. This is gonna be one of them ones. Trust me. Trust me. Why is that so I don't like the quality of that in the background. I don't like the quality of that in the background. It's all good. Ew, why is the quality like that? It is what it is. The quality of this show will be great. I promise y'all that. Let me grab my coffee. I'll be honest. All right, so let me catch up. I'll be honest. This is one of those shows where I don't know where this is gonna go. I don't know where this is gonna go. I'm hopeful that it goes in a positive direction because that's all we come here to ever do is to elevate with intention and purpose. But I do not know. I do not know. I feel like every once in a while we have to have those conversations that may be a little bit difficult to have. However, they're necessary. Hold on. Sorry about that. I'm trying to focus this thing. All right, there we go. There we go. I'm not surprised that as many people are not tapped in early, and perhaps that's because it's just the holiday. Maybe that's just because the holiday. Maybe that's nothing to do with anything else other than that. But I'm not surprised if I'm being totally honest. Once I put that title up, I was like, you know what? This would be interesting. I wonder how many people are gonna be drawn into this show or conveniently try to avoid it. And let me make sure that I'm tapping in with everybody. So 50 Shades of the Dominator. One man's hero is another's war criminal. Depends what side you are on. If the Germans won in World War II, none of them would have been prosecuted. Let me ask you this. I agree totally with you 100%. However, that's if we're led by our convenience, in my opinion. That's if we're led by our humanistic, animalistic, beastly nature. For one man's hero is another's war criminal. And the reason why I say that is because if we're just looking at it from a biblical standpoint, if we're just looking at it from a humanistic standpoint, it doesn't even have to be biblical, then would that still stand true? Would one man's hero still be another's war criminal? If we're led by biblical, spiritual, humanistic values, principles, morals, if we're led by the golden rule of treating others the way that we want to be treated, would that still be the case? Or would, in most cases, both people that fall into that category? Because think about it. When we talk about heroes, who do we speak on? As far as what you're talking about, 50 Shades, you're talking about the people that were heroes to one group and villains to another. But there's a whole bunch of other people, let's say like a Nelson Mandela, who I don't think he would be, when you look at God's standards, when you look at biblical standards, I don't think that he would be considered in that category of a villain to a bunch of people. I don't know. So I understand exactly what you're saying, and I agree. However, I want us to open up our perspective a bit, because there's a whole bunch of other people that I think we should be considering heroes. And I don't think that there's a lot of people that highlight them as villains, if I'm being totally honest. Shout out to Unk in the building. Shout out to Unk. Make sure y'all like and subscribe. We're going to give it a couple more minutes for people to jump in here. Unc said, please remember to like and subscribe, share this podcast and all the moments with your friends. Thank you and good morning once again, Grand Rising people. Hope everyone had a wonderful weekend. Yes, yes, yes. And we know it's a long weekend, so hopefully that continues beyond this show. Good morning, all. It's going to be a great week. Shout out to Big Bro Steve in the building, always coming through with the great energy and insight. Critical Thinking in the building. Shout out to Critical Thinking, always coming through with the great insight and positive energy. Yeah, get the popcorn ready. Get the popcorn ready. May not be that many people in the movie theater, but it's going to be a good movie. It's going to be a good movie. Wasn't the first Vikings were here long before Columbus came. Wasn't the first Vikings were here long before Columbus came to find Holy Grail for Freemasons. Interesting. Stalin was hero to some, devil to many. Patrick, shout out to Patrick Karen in the building. Ask Zulu how they feel about Mandela and ANC. Well, then that's an interesting point that you bring up. Let me ask you this, Patrick, then. If Nelson Mandela, are you saying that, please inform us, because this may be something that I just may be ignorant on. And a lot of this, I'm sure, is based on how certain history was presented to us. But let me ask you this, Patrick. I'm sure we can agree on that there's some people that we can consider heroes that weren't villains to certain people, right? Or I guess based on what y'all are saying, I mean, what I'm getting from y'all is that everybody's a villain. Am I getting from y'all that anybody who is a notable figure in human history, that we're saying that they were all villains to a particular group? Is that what we're saying? Is Malcolm X a villain? Was Malcolm X a villain? And I'll wait for y'all to answer that one, because I have a follow-up question after we go off of after you let me know that. Shout out to Boog in the building. Hopefully Boog had an amazing birthday. We forgot to wish, I forgot. Here I go with the we. I forgot to wish Boog a happy birthday on the show on Friday. So hopefully you had an amazing birthday weekend, Boog. So y'all tell Mont happy birthday, man. Hopefully I know the weather cleared up. He's probably still traveling in the tropics somewhere, but hopefully the weather cleared up. Tribal conflicts, okay. Mao was the worst dictator ever. I'm not too familiar. I'll be honest. I'm not too familiar. But many love Mao, and I'm sure I'm pronouncing it wrong. It's all perspective. To some, Sitting Bull would have been a villain, and yes, depending on who you ask, that's why they shot him. So we're talking about Malcolm X. Let me ask y'all this: how many people did Malcolm X kill? How many people did Malcolm X kill? Do we know of anybody that Malcolm X killed? Because it seems like when it comes to this, we're not realistic with, I guess, on the spectrum of, even if J. Edgar Hoover, matter of fact, I'll be totally honest. J. Edgar Hoover, he was quoted as saying that Malcolm X would be a black messiah. So my question for y'all is that when it comes specifically to Malcolm X, I'm sure there's a lot of people, because he was a black nationalist or considered himself a black nationalist early on when he was following Elijah Muhammad. To be totally honest, I'm not sure exactly how he was feeling when he was passing, because there was a shift in mindset there. But how many people did Malcolm X kill? I keep asking y'all. I'm not getting any responses in the chat. And I believe we're still waiting for the good brother Patrick to tell us about Nelson Mandela, because I wasn't educated in that particular area. So please let me know about that. Heroes and villains are man's imperfection. Unless we have specific personal experience to allow us to develop an opinion, we tend to be highly influenced by the information provided to us by the powers that be. 100%. 100%. So, and this is my question for everybody. And we're going to go through, a couple documentaries, not a couple documentaries, real short videos, and we're going to get some responses. We got a response from Matt Walsh. We got one from Ben Shapiro talking about Christopher Columbus Day. And that's what kind of created the title for this show. I'm sitting here and I'm hearing about how Hamas is such a terrible terrorist group. And then I see Donald Trump last week signing into office that they're reinstalling, or maybe this was an old clip. I just saw the clip where they're instituting, whatever you would call it, but putting Christopher Columbus Day back as a national holiday. I believe that's what he was doing. And I'm like, whoa, what's the difference here? Has Hamas killed as many people as Christopher Columbus? Last time I checked, as far as this particular situation, Hamas was defending land that they actually were on, right? Whether you call them a terrorist group or not, the last time I checked that, they were fighting for land that they believed to be theirs, right? Now, we can argue about, God gave Jews the land. Okay, we could say all that. But I don't think anybody has ever been confused on the fact that Christopher Columbus was conquering, colonizing, raping, pillaging, going to land that was not his, going to conquer people that were not his, right? So why do we look at Hamas the way that we look at Hamas, but we want to celebrate and have a day off with Christopher Columbus? I'm just asking the question. Are you racist? Are you racist? If you sent out a Christopher Columbus Day text today, or I don't know, I'm asking the question. Do you want me to change it up? Do you want me to say, are we racist? Are we racist? Are we a racist nation? So you don't feel the hit personally? No, I can't do that. Are you racist? Are you valuing the race of one group in a different way than you value the race of another, simply by who this group was killing and who this group was conquering and who this group was terrorizing compared to somebody else and who they were conquering, colonizing, and terrorizing? I'm just asking the question. Let me get to the chats because I'm really asking because I want to know y'all answer. I really want to know. So Patrick wrote, Malcolm X became a villain to the people who helped clean up his life, but he was going to expose those leaders on a deeper level, so they killed him. So you're 100%. Malcolm X became a villain to the Nation of Islam because he exposed Elijah Muhammad. But I don't think that that's the reason why we don't learn about Malcolm X in school and we only learn about Martin Luther King Jr. I don't think that that's the reason why most Americans have the perspective that they have on Malcolm X that they do. I don't think it's because they're defending the Nation of Islam and Elijah Muhammad. Matter of fact, when you actually look into that death, the more I do my research, I don't know, Patrick, you tell me, it seems as if the United States government, whether it was J. Edgar Hoover, the CIA, it's hard to tell, was working in cahoots with that mosque in New Jersey that it's believed that had somebody go to New York and kill Malcolm X. But I don't think that that's the reason why, let me be honest, why most white Americans, if we're just being real, I don't even think that's the reason why most black Americans who may look at Malcolm X the way that they look at him in a negative light, I don't think it's because that he was getting ready to expose Elijah Muhammad, somebody who they couldn't stand anyway. So I do think that, I'm not saying that you're deflecting, but if we focus on that aspect of it, let's be honest. Malcolm X was seen as a villain to white America, if we're just being honest. And before we get into this conversation, it's funny that Malcolm X actually came up in a conversation that I was having yesterday. Was it yesterday with Nick Fuentes? Let me sip my coffee. Malcolm X actually came up in a conversation yesterday that I was having with Nick Fuentes. And y'all like, yo, he wasn't talking to Nick Fuentes. Yo, so this is what happened. I'll tell you a real quick story, then we'll get into all the videos and everything, and I'll make sure that I try to keep up with as many comments as I possibly can. I'm sitting here yesterday and I'm like, yo, why doesn't Nick Fuentes have conversations with black podcasts, black platforms? I don't understand that. What happened to Phil Donahue interviewing Farrakhan, bringing on Khalid Muhammad? What happened to these type of conversations where Malcolm X was able to go on different shows and have real dialogue? Now we just cancel people, and people hate people that they haven't even heard from. And that's how things get propagandized. That's how we all get manipulated into thinking that this person's bad, this person's bad. Why not just hear them out? Shoot, we reviewed a video of the Grand Wizard of the KKK on this show maybe a couple months ago, right? I wanted to learn their perspective. And what was so interesting about it is when I actually learned their perspective, it seemed a lot different than what had been presented to me before that. So I put in my mind, you know, I'm a part of that group message. There's only like 300 people in the group message with Nick Fuentes. And I do it more so to support him and what he's doing. It's like $100 a month. And I do it because I'm using his videos. So just to be totally straightforward with y'all, if I'm using your videos and I'm making money off of them on YouTube, then I feel like I can support what you got going on. Just straightforward as that. So I decided that I was going to send him a message and be like, and I never even saw him interact because I don't really look at the group message from that much. And when I opened the group message, I was looking at him. I'm like, how can I send a message to him? He's not going to see through. There's thousands of messages a day of people arguing about the whatever. And while I'm in there, I'm writing at Nicholas, and there's this Nicholas, but normally he goes by Nicholas J. Fuentes. So I'm like, yo, who is this Nicholas? But they had like a goat, or it was like a I don't know what it was, but the name on it was GOAT. So I'm like, oh, he's interacting. And he was sending messages right then and there. So I'm like, oh, this Fuentes? I said, all right, bet. So I sent him a message, and obviously I'm not going to expose the whole combo, but I think it's okay to, yeah, like that's actually one of the rules in the chat. You can't be just exposing what's going on in the chat. But without doing any of that, I asked him, you know, I'm like, yo, have you not gone on any black platforms? Like, I'm just wondering, like, they don't reach out to you wanting to have a conversation? So he said that one group did. And I was surprised that only that group did. And his response to me was, like, to be totally honest, I don't think that black people are going to be receptive to my message. And I said, I'm black. You know how you hit somebody with the, well, I'm black. You know, I'm receptive to the message. I process it. I don't agree with everything, but what would make me any less receptive to your message than a Donald Trump message, a Joe Biden message, a Bill Clinton message, a Barack Obama message? Now, obviously, everybody, when they hear that, they may say, well, it's because Nick is this. It's because Nick. I know. And he said something in response that I was like, that brought up Malcolm X. And he was like, you know, to be totally honest, like he said something around this. I'm not even going to say that it was word for word, but he was saying how, you know, he's still in his heart a white nationalist. And this is something that obviously he's talked about from time to time. Even though it seems to change up, I'll be totally honest. Like when he's on Dave Smith, it seemed like he was discussing race in a different way than when he's playing a home game. I'm just being totally honest. When he's playing a home game, I mean, either on his show and even on his show at times. So I can't say even on his show at times, it'll go back and forth. But I noticed that he does, in my opinion, try to appeal to his core audience of what he would probably call these disaffected young white men. Just being real. So I followed up and I said, oh, because you're a white nationalist. I said, bro, you're not saying, I said, you may think you are, but you're not saying anything different than Malcolm X was preaching. You're just preaching it about white people. Malcolm X was preaching the very same thing about black people. You need to look out for your own people first. You need to feed your own community. Matter of fact, Malcolm X was taking it a step further because, to be totally honest, when it comes to Nick Fuentes' followers, I believe that even I had a back and forth with one in the chat yesterday where I'm like, bro, you sound like a victim. And I think that a lot of the people that do follow Nick Fuentes, y'all are just as much victims as when I call out black people for being victims. I had a conversation with somebody talking about, well, the housing and black people moving into our neighborhoods, and I'm looking out. I'm like, well, why don't you get off the group chat, work harder, and then you can go. Based on what you're telling me, you're saying that the black people are bringing the property values down, all these things, even though they've done studies that show otherwise. I don't even want to get into that combo. But I'm like, why don't you get out of this group chat, go work harder so you can make more money, and then you can live around whoever you want to live around. You can go live around all white people if you want to. Oh, well, I do live around all white people, and I'm talking about the people that can't. Oh, those other victims. And then he's lumping Jewish people in the same category as black people, taking over white neighborhoods. And I'm like, first off, black people aren't walking around in groups trying to buy homes. So if you're directing that specifically to Jewish people or a particular portion of Jewish people, then direct that energy there. Be specific, because black people aren't doing that. And I said, second off, who do you think's selling them the homes, dummy? So if you have an issue, then take it out on the white people that are selling the homes, that are moving into Brooklyn, moving into Harlem, moving into some of the worst neighborhoods in Jersey, but there's a train line, so they don't care. I said, maybe, why don't you get mad at them because they're moving out of your neighborhoods and wanting to move around black people? But that was just the interesting, neither here nor there. The reason why I brought that up is because Malcolm X, to me, in my opinion, he preached a whole lot less victimhood than you hear even from a Nick Fuentes. Malcolm X wasn't with the complaining. He was about empowering his own people to do for self. At least that was my takeaway. So that was my interesting combo with Nick. But then we went on and we discussed a little bit more about how Nick, and he was open to jumping on black platforms. And I said, of course, we'd love to have you on ours. But I told him, I said, to be honest, I think you need to be on a bigger platform. And we went back and forth, just slightly. I don't want to oversell it as if it was a more extensive conversation than it was. But I pretty much finished off with saying that, hey, I'm if it's cool with you, I'm gonna reach out to a few people that I may know that, let's see if we can get you on a bigger platform. And I told him I'll actually, I don't need to do it for work. I'll do it for free, just on the strength that you're allowing me to use your videos and make money off them. Said it's the least that I could do. So stay tuned on that. I did reach out to, who I reached out to Charlemagne, and we'll see how that ends up going. He responded, and we'll see if he ends up going on there. And the reason why is because I think people need to have more conversation. People need to have more transparency. The people that they want us to hate, okay, cool. Let's figure out why I should hate you. Let's have a conversation. And when people don't have conversations, they stay in their bubble. And this is what I'm pointing out when it comes to Nick, and when I'm pointing out when it comes to a lot of communities. When you become so just isolated and in your own bubble with a group of people, then you start rationalizing and seeing things maybe through a lens that Israel sees things through, or Bibi Netanyahu sees things through, which is you start to forget, and you start to justify doing any and everything because the Holocaust that was committed to you, and you want to protect your people from that never happening again. But then you don't even realize that you're committing a genocide against another group of people because you're only in a room, you're only in a bubble with people that look like you, that do the same things, that embrace the same culture, that have the same fears as you. So I'm for opening up those conversations and having those conversations across different groups. That's just me. And I know I'm going off on a tangent. Let me get back to it. So the first message that I see as I direct my energy back to the computer is Kim wrote, "I'm not racist. There's just truth in history." I see 50 Shades wrote, Nick believes in white victimhood and Jewish supremacy. That's his ideology because it mirrors his personal life experience. Check out his college days. I know he's been a victim. I know he's been a victim. I know he's been a victim of getting canceled, all types of things. And yeah, I don't know. I'm sure that a lot of black people can run around and say they've been victims of white supremacy or this and that. I just don't subscribe to it. I'm being totally honest with you. So whether I hear a black person talking about it, who it's clear I can see like, oh yeah, things have been a little bit rough for you in America based on the history of America. It's not that I excuse it. I just look at it like, oh, okay. You know, it is what it is. It doesn't help me. I'm aware of where certain challenges may come from, but I don't embrace victimhood because I just don't think that it leads me to the desired outcome that I'm looking for. Just me. So let me leave that there. Let's get into some of these videos. Once again, I want to pose the question. There was a 2024 DNA study of Columbus. See, now you Marty McFly. He's trying to hold up. I feel like you're going down a path. That I have not done as much due diligence as I feel necessary in order to start talking about it to y'all, but at least extensively. But Marty McFly, that's an interesting. Oh man. So Marty McFly said it confirmed what was already known. So now I got to ask, what was already known, Marty McFly? And Unc wrote, people raise more attention when they claim to be victims than when they claim to be the aggressor. It works for so much different former victims' point of view. All right, so I want to ask y'all. Hold up. Now y'all putting it out. Christopher Columbus was a Jew. Yo, if you believe that that's true, then put the information and in the chat, and you have to show where you've done your research, because that's the only way that making the claim is one thing, but you have to let us know where you got that research from. You definitely have to let us know where you got that research from. Shout out to my little bro, Michael, in the building. Hostages got released. Yeah, hostages got released. Hostages did get released. And the reason why I'm going like this is because it's just a shame that it took all of this. It's a shame that it took, in my opinion, a genocide to happen. It's a shame that, and this is what I talk about when I say I'm just not for war. Let me ask y'all this. What was accomplished since October 7th? Like what has been accomplished where we can say, oh yeah, now is enough. Now we can trade the hostages back. What has been accomplished through war? So when we sit back and we look at, hey, wars can be a necessary evil at certain times. Is it really necessary? It's definitely evil, but do we think that it's necessary? I don't know. I guess every situation is differently. I'm not saying, and this is what my mindset on war is, I'm not for war. That's my foundational stance. But if somebody tells me that war is necessary, then I just ask them to just give me some information on a particular war or a time where you feel like it was necessary. And then when we start to unpack that, I think we'll perhaps along that journey understand that we may be seeing things in a less than non-biblical, non-humanistic way, in my opinion. But let's keep it going. All right, I'm looking at a bunch of these comments. So 50 Shades of the Dominator wrote, Israel didn't get what they wanted to accomplish. They hoped people would voluntarily leave, but instead they refused, and the USA told them that time's up and that it didn't work. I'm extremely uncomfortable with the Israel-Palestine situation. Extremely uncomfortable with it. I think that it's a reflection of how evil we can be as a group of people and as humans. I think that the more I unpack and research on Israel and Palestine, I think it's disgusting what the entire world has allowed to happen to those Palestinian people. I think it's disgusting what the world has allowed to happen to the Palestinian people. I think it's disgusting what the world allowed Christopher Columbus to do to the Americas. I think it's disgusting that so many people are comfortable with justifying killing people, doing any and everything to their children, their women, because you think that you're entitled to a piece of land. I don't care whether you think you're entitled to it or not. The fact that you feel that you should be able to play God, and the reason why I say play God is because that is exactly what people are doing. When you violate God's commandments, you're playing God. You're putting yourself above God for your own individual selfish nature. You think that it's okay to violate God's commandments of thou shalt not kill because you think that God gave you land. So when God gives you land, you'll accept that, but you won't accept God telling you thou shalt not kill. I think that we got too many half-ass fake religious people running around using religion when it benefits them to cause destruction and evil to other people, because that's when you lean into religion the most, it seems. It seems as if you lean into religion the most when you're trying to justify the evil behavior that you're doing. And you lean into it in a manipulative way, in my opinion. You use it to play God. You use it to colonize a group of people. You use it to take over and steal land from somebody. And what a lot of people may not be aware of when I do this research, were y'all aware that after World War II, and we may have discussed this on Friday's show, but after World War II, the law, I think it was, I'm not sure if it was the Geneva Convention or not, I don't even, hold on. Let me actually look that up. Hold on. Let me not even look that up because I don't even want to. The law is that you can't, when you take over a land, this is something that a lot of people weren't familiar with. Let me break this down. A lot of people say that the Palestinians didn't own the land, right? That's what they say. The Palestinians didn't own the land. And y'all know I have to keep it real no matter who's watching. I got friends, family, little bros in here, big bros, doesn't matter. I'm speaking the truth because that's what brothers do. And you need to hear it. A lot of people like to play games when it comes to saying that, oh, it was a British territory, British Palestine. The Palestinians didn't even own the land. But then when I do my research, unless my research is wrong, I looked up, I said, oh, even though it was a British territory, because what happens a lot is we think that, oh, because they won the war, to the victor go the spoils. They get everything. No, that's not the law. That's not how the laws of war work. When you conquer a land, when you take over as the governing land, you cannot steal the private land and homes that were owned by those people. You can't just have your people move in and say, oh, we won the war, so yeah, all our civilians move in now and we kicking all their civilians out. That's not how it goes. That's not the law. You don't just win a war and think that you can take over the private homes, the private land. That's not the law. So when people play these games, and even in my mind, I couldn't conceptualize it properly, where I was like, oh, they won the war, so therefore they get the land. No. That's why the United Nations recommended, and when I say recommendation, that's just kind of how that aspect of it works. It's called the recommendation. They can't enforce it necessarily. But that's why the UN made it clear that the Palestinians had a right to return. That's why the UN made it clear that if you're going to take land, at the very least, you have to compensate those people for the land. I believe that Jewish people owned, or Israelis, whatever, owned about 6% of the land, where Palestinians owned about 90%, 80 to 90%, I want to say. So would you consider that stealing somebody's land? Would you consider that stealing somebody's land? If you violated law, you violated United Nations, right? You violated international law. But we want to sit back and act as if the war started on October 7th? So I ask y'all again, what's the difference between Hamas and Christopher Columbus? What's the difference between Hamas, Christopher Columbus, and whoever was in power on the Israeli side when they decided to take over the land and property that the Palestinians owned? What's the difference? And why do we tolerate this? Why do we sit back and act as if all this is okay? And it goes back to what I said, what I keep saying. When you allow people to get away with any and everything, it not only impacts you in an oppressive way where it's like, okay, we allow them to do any and everything to us. And it also impacts them because now they actually feel entitled. They think that they're walking around and can do everything because everybody allows them to do certain things. What's the difference? Why do we, let me ask y'all this. Should Germany have a Hitler Day? Should Germany have a Hitler Day because he fought the good fight against it? But we have a Christopher Columbus Day. Now, of course, we'll never document or we'll never be able to document how many people Christopher Columbus and his people were responsible for killing, right? We'll never be able to document how many lives Europeans, when they colonized the Americas, how many people that they killed, right? The millions of people, right? You remember when they were paying civilians to bring back scalps of the indigenous people there? We'll never be able to properly tell how many millions of people died in those exchanges, right? But we're sitting here celebrating Columbus Day. How many of God's commandments did Christopher Columbus violate? How many of Christopher Columbus's commandments? Yeah, Christopher Columbus was playing God. That's exactly what he was doing. The same things that we point out with Hitler doing. And let's actually look at this realistically. And shout out to my big bro, Robert. Hold on. Let me put a stamp in what I was saying. Shout out to my big bro, Robert. Tribalism is widely recognized as one of the most dangerous aspects of human psychology. When acting as a tribe, it turns off our empathy. This is why it's important to break down bubbles. Big bro, you're 100% right. And this is why even when we hear about certain situations happening when it's that group mentality, that gang mentality, you start to do things. It's no different than a mastermind. This is the exact negative aspect of a mastermind. When you get a group of people together with the same goal, you're able to compound your efforts as what you would be able to do individually when you're in a group. It's not like, okay, let's say you have 3 people that are working together and the work that they would each do as individuals, you add that up and that's what they would be able to do as a group. No, it compounds. Like it's much greater. So getting back to my point, and thank you very much, big bro, for the super chat. Every time you hit us with a super chat, I'm sitting here like, yo, like I don't even know what to say at times, but it's greatly appreciated. It's greatly appreciated, and it allows me not only to continue doing the show, but I'll be totally honest with you. Let's be honest here. A lot of the reasons why people are scared to say or have conversations about what I encourage us to have conversations about is because they're threatened that they're going to lose money. They're going to lose this. They're going to lose that. And if I'm just being honest, it does cross my mind at certain times. It does. Probably more than I like it to. But it is what it is. Look, man, blame my parents. So when my parents are sitting back and wondering like, oh my God, like, does he have to be the one to talk about this? Yeah, this is how y'all raised me. It is what it is. This is how we got here, right? And think about all the heroes that we look up to. Wasn't easy for them either. So the least we can do on our end is have the conversations. So getting back to what I was discussing, think about this. Hitler is the devil, right? Hitler's the devil. And Hitler was in Germany. And without getting into all the details of his horrendous behavior, right? He was trying to kick people out of the place that he was running. Okay. Now, we're not going to sit here and compare evil to evil. Well, actually, maybe we will. Maybe that's exactly what we'll do. So Hitler was trying to remove people from his country. He's the devil. Cool. Christopher Columbus went to another country and was raping, pillaging, killing. And it's not just Christopher Columbus, it's European explorers, whatever they're called, explorers, right? We'll give them a nice name. They were going to another country to rape, pillage. All I heard on October 7th was, oh my God, Hamas is they're raping the women, they're doing all this type of stuff. Well, what did they do? And even though a lot of this stuff came out as not true, and some news outlets had to acknowledge that in the fake and phony way that they typically do so when they admit a mistake. And I believe it was even found out that those accusations were on both sides, IDF and Hamas. But Christopher Columbus does the very same thing. These European explorers do the very same thing, and we give them a holiday. How can we not look at this situation as, you're racist? Oh, cool. How can we not look at the situation? Are we allowing God to judge, or are we conveniently consulting with our convenience? Are we consulting with our convenience? Oh, well, yeah, I know he did evil things, but he did it on our behalf for us. So therefore, it made things better for us. Oh, well, yeah, he's evil. He did the same thing, but he was doing it to us. So it was hurting us. So therefore, that's what makes his evil. But when you do the same action, maybe even worse, to another group, but it like nobody really cares about that group. They had brown skin, maybe black skin, whatever. Nobody cares about them. Matter of fact, we'll create a narrative that they were less than subhuman and all that. So therefore, they needed us white folk to come take care of them, like our dogs need us. Y'all remember the video that I showed y'all of the lady, the interview that they did with the lady who owned slaves, right? That's what she was saying. That was her energy. She was doing niggas a favor, right? How thankful we should be for our colonizers for coming here and turning America into the amazing country that it is today. How thankful we should be. How thankful we should be for somebody coming here and forcing their religion, even though they're violating their religion by forcing it on us, even though they're violating their religion and violating their own God by violating their own God's commandments. So why should I be surprised that men that will violate their own God would violate us? But we give them a holiday, right? We give them a holiday. Still got the end of these sniffles. Y'all see why I can't identify my people by just black people? Going back to what Robert just wrote, tribalism. One of the most dangerous aspects of human psychology. This is why when I say my people, I'm not just talking about black people. I'm not talking about black people. I'm talking about the people that align with my principles, morals, and values. Isn't that what religion was supposed to do? Wasn't religion supposed to be able to bring all different types of people to come together based on morals, principles, and values rather than tribalism? So who's really religion? Who's really religious? Who's really standing on godly principles? When you look back at the first slave ship coming over here and you look at the name of it and it's the Jesus Lubbock, I'm like, damn, that was sorry, hold on, let me blow my nose real quick. Are y'all disgusted in humanity as much as I am? And I'm leaving Robert's comment on the bottom because this is no different. We've shown the same, like how we resolve problems is no different than our most beastly beings on earth. Like our most, not like literally, we solve conflicts perhaps worse than when you think about like our most beastly beings, right? Like I don't even know who would fall into that category. Um, I don't know. When I think about creatures, and it's like we're the worst ones. Our behavior, perhaps because our ceiling is so high compared to, when it comes to us having this cognitive capability that a lot of other animals don't have, the ability to reason, all these different things. But where I guess that allows us to do amazing things, it also allows us to do much more horrible things than perhaps animals. And I've been seeing a lot of stuff, even when it comes to the Nobel Peace Prize and all this stuff, with Donald Trump campaigning for this, and Ben Shapiro's goofy ass getting on TV talking about Donald Trump should have a Nobel Peace Prize. I wonder if Ben Shapiro would feel that same way if he was on the other side of the conflict. These people are such cowards. They're such cowards. You move in this type of way, and that's the worst thing about tribalism. The cowards behave. Cowards are the ones that get the most courage when they're tribal and in a group, when they're in that group mentality. And the cowards are the ones that behave differently the most, in my opinion. You behave this way when you're the superior army. You behave this way when you're the bully. Your principles are only guided on you being the bully. You play victim when the Holocaust is committed against you, right? But then you want us to feel sympathy and empathy. You want us to feel sympathy and empathy in your embracing victimhood when the Holocaust is committed by Hitler. But then when you're committing the genocide, it seems that your energy changes. Perhaps this is the reason why the first time ever in America, that based on the CNN poll that I recently saw, that people in America are more sympathetic for the Palestinian cause than the Israeli cause. Perhaps people are waking up and seeing what actually is going on. Perhaps people are understanding that we're living in a country that picks and chooses who's the villain and hero based on our own self-interest. You think that you can commit a genocide because of a certain amount of your people were kidnapped and killed? You think you can commit a genocide on an entire group of people who obviously mostly were innocent? Acting as if you're fighting against an army, you're fighting against a street gang, Hamas. It's like fighting against, if all the Bloods in America united against the United States military. It's not even close to what's going on, and you justify destroying an entire country, acting as if we're not aware of the ulterior motives of what you really want to accomplish. And all of our politicians have to go along with it because they either took money or have a sex tape, maybe blackmailing them against, like that's really the energy that we're like. Oh my God. But as long as you pledge your life to your Lord and Savior, all the Christians I'm talking to, as long as you pledge your life to your Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, you can get into heaven. But when you pledge your life to your Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, don't you have to kind of stand up for his principles and his morals? And isn't that a sign of respect to him? Or aren't you kind of slapping him in the face when you don't behave in a way that he would behave? When you start to compromise your morals, compromise your biblical principles? I'm just asking, because maybe we need to get back to those rubber bands that people used to wear, the WWJD. Remember that? What would Jesus do? What would Jesus do? You think he would allow all these Palestinians to have this genocide just committed against them? I'm asking y'all. Y'all are the Christians. I'm asking y'all. Because I see a whole bunch of people using their religion to validate them committing some of the most worst atrocities we've seen in our lifetimes, while a whole bunch of Christians just sit back and mind their business. I'm just asking, is this a humanity thing, or is this just, oh, well, nah, I only rep, Christianity, rocking with America. Like, I don't got nothing to do with what's going on over there. Isn't that y'all holy land too? All right. Let's move on. I can't wait till the aliens pull up. Let me put that out there. I can't wait till the aliens pull up, because while everybody's putting on a front trying to get into heaven, these aliens that pull up, they may be holding people accountable to how you were behaving during these type of times. Now, y'all may be listening to what I'm saying and think I'm joking. I'm dead serious. I can't wait till the aliens pull up. I don't, hey, by no means am I perfect, but I don't think the aliens are going to be offended. They may say like, hey, you need to be better in your relationship. You need to be better son, maybe better. They may say stuff like that, but I'm not sitting around here condoning genocides. I'm not sitting around here condoning Holocaust. I'm not sitting around here violating God's most powerful commandment. Now, you can sit here and say my tax dollars are doing it. Yeah, but I'm speaking out against it. I'm doing what I can. You feel me? I'm doing something. Maybe there's more that I could do. I'm sure there is. There's more that we all could do. Well, let me not talk about we all. I'm sure there's more that I can do personally. But when the record is put on the table, whether that's Judgment Day with God, whether that's Judgment Day with the aliens, I'm walking in with my head held high confidently. I don't know about if you sent a happy Columbus Day text this morning, then I don't know about. No, I'm just joking. And even if you did, let me be honest. Even if you sent a happy Columbus Day text earlier this morning, this is just to get you to think. We've all been propagandized. All of us, myself included. Most of the time, I'll be totally honest. A lot of times when my energy is like it is today, a lot of times that's because I'm pissed off at myself for allowing certain things. I may be pissed off at myself for not speaking out about something as much as I now feel like I should. So I'm pointing the finger at myself as well. However, once I realize, then it's hard for me to shut up. Let's get to some of these videos. My fault, man. I done talked y'all head off. Oh man. The aliens are coming, man. Y'all better watch out. What did Steve write? What did Big Bro write? Big Bro, as long as they pull up in DC first. Yeah, go address that first. Bonds, shout out to Bonds in the building. DC definitely the first spot. Y'all think that's where they Yo, I don't know why. You know it's funny? I was getting ready to show y'all a alien video today. But there's been a lot of people, I don't know if y'all been paying attention, but there's been a lot of people in the CIA or working for the government that are now coming out. You call them whistleblowers, you call them whatever you want, but they're now coming out saying like, nah, like we've had reports for a long time, but people have been told if you ever say anything about this, you'll be in jail for the rest of your life. Tucker Carlson just did an interview with somebody. There's a lot of people. Matter of fact, people have testified in Congress, I believe, over the last few months about them saying like, yo, we saw these UFOs. I don't know if anybody has come out and said that they actually had an encounter with an extraterrestrial being, I guess you would call it, but they've pulled up on their spaceships. I'm not even sure if we'll be able to see them. Like if we'll be able to, I don't know. But y'all know I'm all about the energy. So as long as they can feel my energy, like, yo, it's me. Yo, it's me. That's how, when the aliens pull up, it's me, David Caldwell. Everybody call me Dak. Y'all know we've exchanged energy before. Like, I don't want you confusing me with it's me. A lot of other people, I don't know, y'all may be hiding. Y'all may be hiding when them aliens pull up. I don't know. Shout out to Anthony's in the building. Shout out to Sis. And just to keep y'all posted before we actually get into the videos, we did a dope panel. Dope panel should come out either today or tomorrow. We did a dope panel on Friday night. Y'all gonna have to wait and see. But let's get to some of these videos because I'm over here. What's funny is today I was like, yo, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to. I got so many videos. I was like, yo, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to like just talk a lot today. Like, I don't know if I'm gonna have certain stuff to talk about. And of course, y'all know. Let me get y'all mad real quick. Let me get y'all upset. So I'm gonna show y'all. Let me show y'all this Ben Shapiro real quick. Let me show y'all this Ben Shapiro. Let him educate us real quick. Let me share this tab. All right, let me. Ben Shapiro, bro. Can't stand that guy.
The point of a Christopher Columbus statue is not all the bad things he did to the Arawaks. The point of a Christopher Columbus statue is we are glad that Western civilization came to the Western Hemisphere. I think it is a good thing that Western civilization came to the Western Hemisphere. But this notion that the only cruelty that has ever existed in human history came at the behest of Western civilization, that everything was a Rousseauian paradise before Christopher Columbus came, that Christopher Columbus doesn't deserve a statue in specific, that we should, like, either make the argument that everybody was a product of their time and therefore no one deserves a statue, or recognize that when there's a statue of Christopher Columbus, we are not honoring how he treated the Arawaks. No one ever thought that we put up a statue to Christopher Columbus because he was really sweet to the natives on the other end of that. I mean, presumably to say that Western civilization arriving here was a good thing, well, right? Or to have the conversation. Listen, Columbia University is named after Columbus, right?
I have to stop it there. He said that Western civilization arriving here was a good thing. That's like telling Palestinians that the Ashkenazi Jews from Europe arriving in Israel or in what was British Palestine, I guess at the time, was a good thing. Yo, God gonna take care of all this, man. I don't know about y'all, man. God gonna take care of all this. You can't just be putting out certain energy like this and thinking that God's not gonna take care of this. So now you're validating. That's like me sitting here saying, like, what he's doing is like saying, well, actually Hitler was trying to do what was best for the German government. Like, we can argue about whether he went about it the right way or not, but that's not why we're giving him the statue. We're giving him the statue because he wanted to protect Germany, protect the economy at all costs. And he felt like, what are you talking about, bro? You see how when the shoe's on the other foot, it's not consistent? So then it leads me to say, oh, that's okay when it happens to that group of people, but it's not okay when it happens to this group of people. Is there not a better example of racism? I mean, I don't know. And I don't even know if racism is the worst word. I don't even know if people get upset about, like, if that's a dirty word to call somebody anyway, or anymore, where it's like, oh, you call somebody racist, they feel some type of way. I don't even think these people care. oh, we're not giving him a statue because he raped and pillaged and killed. No. We're bringing him a statue because he brought Western civilization here. And I think we can all look around and say that that's a good thing.
Christopher Columbus, we are not honoring how he treated the Arawaks. No one ever thought that we put up a statue to Christopher Columbus because he was really sweet to the natives on the other end of that. I mean, presumably to say that Western civilization arriving here was a good thing, well, right? Or to have the conversation. Listen, Columbia University is named after Columbus, right? The idea of America as Columbia, right, which was an alternative name for America, was after Columbus because he was a discoverer. The point of a Christopher Columbus.
Oh, man. It's amazing. This is why this is how you could tell you're speaking with a demonic force. They know that everything that they're saying, if it was applied to their people, they would find it disgusting, right? They would find it evil, pure evil. This is just another example of the colonizer's mindset, right? How certain people just feel like they're better than other people. Who the fuck is Ben Shapiro to sit here and say that Western civilization is better with people that came here ruled by violence, right? They established something based on violence, right? Use violence to establish a country. Use violence to rid the earth, rid America of a certain group of people. And Ben Shapiro says that, oh, well, I think, it's a good thing that Western civilization came here, in his little squirmy voice. This is why, you know what's so interesting? Because pretty much with a guy like Ben Shapiro, and when I say that it's all good when you're the bully, right? When you're the bully, all this stuff is okay. And you're pretty much saying that, oh no, force should rule things. And there's a certain group of people that do believe that, hey, the world is controlled by force. If I have more force than you, then I can take what you have, then I can do whatever I want to you. And that's the rule of the land, right? There's a lot of people that believe that. There's a lot of people like Ben Shapiro who I would say believe that based on your actions, but you're only doing it when you're in the position of power. I don't think you had that same energy if Germans, if nobody else in the world got involved in what Hitler was doing to you and your people, right? I don't think you would have that same energy if you removed everything else and it was just Ben Shapiro and another person. Let's say it was just Ben Shapiro and I in a room. And Ben Shapiro and I, we're living back in the days and times of how things were before, right? You just conquer everything by force. There's food in the room, you take it by force. I don't know if Ben Shapiro's trained or anything like that, but I'm pretty sure if Ben Shapiro and I are having a debate about who's going to get this piece of food, and it's up to him and I'd be very confident in that situation. But to me, that's a cowardly mindset to think that you could just rule somebody because you may be superior physically, you may be superior in another aspect. Whatever happened to the golden rule of treating others the way that you want to be treated? Because when we get into this mentality of just things being ruled by force, then maybe we're seeing maybe what that looks like when you have all these colonizers who, we've talked about this before, the people that claimed that they were religious took over the people, the land from people that were actually the most spiritual beings, that actually lived in a spiritual way. Right? That's how it was taught to us. Don't be mad at me. That's how the American school system brought me up. Y'all said that the Native Americans, that they were at one with the land. They didn't waste anything. They used the bison skin. They used everything. They used everything in the animal. It was sacred. They did rituals, right? Y'all taught me that. So then you had the people that played God, violated God's commandment, coming in there and terrorizing this other group. And that seems to be the case with a lot of other countries that we look at. And then we sit back and look and wonder why we have to have a country or a world that's ruled based on who has nuclear weapons and whatnot. I want to show y'all this Matt Walsh video. I was just going to show the short clip, but I was going to show the longer video, but now I'm not necessarily sure if I should play the longer video. No, we got time. We got time. Let me not rush it. All these other videos. There's like so many other videos that I wanted to get into, but I'm not. Let me sticking with Ben Shapiro. Before we go to the Matt Walsh video, I want to show y'all something. Sticking with Ben Shapiro. This clown.
This was true during his first. President Donald J. Trump deserves the Nobel Peace Prize. I mean, this was true during his first term when he brokered the Abraham Accords. It's even more true today. The President of the United States has brokered a Phase 1 deal between Israel and Hamas with the support of legitimately everybody in the region and all the countries all over Europe as well, in favor of the full-scale release of 20 living hostages who have been kept in solitude, in tunnels, starved for 2 years at this point, since October 7th, 2023. And the president deserves full marks for this. President Donald J. Trump deserves the Nobel Peace Prize. I mean, this was true during his first term when he brokered the Abraham Accords. It's even.
So Trump deserves the Nobel Peace Prize. Do you think that Ben Shapiro would be saying any of this if he was on the Hamas side? You know, with all the evil people, with all those evil brown people, you know, the Semites, the ones that are from the actual area. Do you think that Ben Shapiro would have that same energy? I don't think so. I don't think so. But let's go to the Matt Walsh video. This is a little bit longer. And then after this video, so this is what we're going to do instead. I'm going to show y'all a short of Matt Walsh. We'll watch the short. Then I'll show y'all this 6-minute video of Christopher Columbus. And then if y'all want to see the more extensive video of Matt Walsh, y'all just let me know. That's what we'll do. That's what we'll do. That's what we'll do. Nope, changed my mind. We're playing the longer video. I changed my mind. I changed my mind. I changed my mind. All right, let's see. Let's go. Now, this is from last year, actually. And it seems like every year he's making a video about Christopher Columbus Day, but I thought it was interesting. So let's take a look at it. I don't know if he's going to put another video out today, but we'll see.
I'd be remiss if I did not wish you a happy Columbus Day, as I do every year. And it is Columbus Day. It will always be Columbus Day on Columbus Day. It will never be Indigenous Peoples Day, no matter how much they insist on it. And they are insisting more and more each year. So here's the report from Axios today. It says more cities will recognize Indigenous Peoples Day instead of Columbus Day on Monday, but some Native advocates see it as a symbolic gesture that still falls short of the progress needed. The holiday has a layered and complicated history. Some see Indigenous Peoples Day as overdue recognition for Native communities, while others view replacing Columbus Day as disrespectful to Italian-American heritage and a loss of cultural celebration. More than half of U.S. states still refuse to recognize either day as an official state holiday. The divide is more than symbolic. It excavates deeply rooted tensions over the nation's identity and history. For years, Native scholars and lawyers contested the idealized story of U.S. westward expansion, saying that it masked displacement and violence. Gabrielle Galanda, a member of the Round Valley Indian tribes and an indigenous rights attorney in Seattle, says Indigenous Peoples Day is a symbolic gesture. She says, quote, "It gives Americans a brief opportunity to reflect on our existence, but it doesn't address the legal and civil rights issues plaguing our communities." Because, you know, it's for her, it's not, yes, Americans can erase their cultural celebrations, their own heritage and traditions, and celebrate indigenous peoples, but even that is not enough. It's never enough. And on this point, a clip of Kamala from, I think this is back from 2021 or 22, This is making the rounds now. And here she is talking about the horrors, the alleged horrors of European colonization. Let's watch that.
It is an honor, of course, to be with you this week as we celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day, as we speak truth about our nation's history. Since 1934, every October, the United States has recognized the voyage of the European explorers who first landed on the shores of the Americas. But that is not the whole story. That has never been the whole story. Those explorers ushered in a wave of devastation for tribal nations, perpetrating violence, stealing land, and spreading disease. We must not shy away from this shameful past, and we must shed light on it and do everything we can to address the impact of the past on Native communities today.
There are so many reasons why Kamala Harris should not be president. So many things that disqualify her, and literally nothing at all that qualifies her. But even if everything else about her was great, that clip alone should be disqualifying in and of itself. So if somebody's running for president and I just emerged from a cave and I don't know anything about them, that clip's all I need to see. I don't need to see anything else. You should be disqualified from holding any political office in America, much less being the president. If that's how much you loathe America and its traditions and its heritage and its history, if you detest this country and like what it is and its history, then no, you can't lead.
What would Jesus do? What would Jesus do? What would Jesus say about how Christopher Columbus discovered America, right? Are we still teaching that he discovered America? Yeah. What would Jesus say? You think Jesus would be aligned with Matt Walsh? Or do you think Jesus would be aligned with more so even what Kamala Harris said? This is why I call BS on all of these religions. See, you don't need to tell me that you're Christian. You don't need to tell me that you're Jewish. You don't need to tell me that you're Muslim. I should be able to feel that in how you act, your energy, right? Sometimes I really do wish that people that have this type of mindset, like the Matt Walshes and Ben Shapiros, that we were almost living in a time back in times where the people that ran things where it was based on your physical presence. Like when I think about the days like with the Spartans and stuff like that, when you see 300, I almost wish that Matt Walsh and Ben Shapiro, even though they probably would have like schemed their way into, I don't know, whatever political position they could have been in, but I almost wish that those type of people lived during those times. These people are using God's name in vain. They're violating God's commandments. They think that they can play God. And the things that they're spewing, they're only spewing from a position of this. And when I say privilege, I'm not talking about white privilege. I'm not even talking about that. But I mean literally in a privileged position where you're living in a society where you can get away saying these type of things and pushing this type of message. Let's keep going with the video.
You're not fit. So I know you listen to me rant about this every year, and well, this year will be no different because it's important. So just weighing in on this phony debate once again, to clarify a few things, Do you know why Columbus should have a holiday and indigenous people should not? Well, because Columbus was a great man of history whose achievements helped to shape the world that you live in today. And in fact, it's very likely that if Columbus never lived, you would not be alive. That doesn't mean that no European would have ever discovered the Americas if not for Columbus. Likely, it would have happened eventually. But the point is that
I have to keep the same energy that I have towards a lot of the things that I call out when it comes to black people, right? I'll call certain things out when it comes to black people, and I'll say black people need to be holding ourselves accountable to improving our standards, our culture, all these different things, right? I'll call out and say when it's cops, you know, the quote unquote, if you're a good cop, then why do you sit back and allow bad cops to do certain things and you never speak out against them? Aren't you supposed to be a leader? Aren't you supposed to address these things even more so than us? It's your people doing it. They violating your codes, your brotherhood, sisterhood. The same way that I'll say certain things when it comes to Jewish people who try to conveniently pick sides or not conveniently be Jewish, or don't hold me accountable to what Netanyahu's doing when he's doing something bad. You know what I mean? But then you don't have any of that energy when it comes to Netanyahu saying, you know, Jewish people, this is for the Jewish people. And when it benefits you to be Jewish, you'll lean into it. But you're not willing to call out the genocide that is being committed in your God's name, in your religion's name. So I have to keep that same energy when it comes to white Americans. I have to keep that same energy when it comes to white Americans. When you see a guy like Matt Walsh spewing this hatred, this evil, not only in the name of white Americans, but in the name of your religion, and you don't condemn this behavior. Y'all know I'm not with the whole victimhood stuff. I'm not with it. But just because I'm not with the victimhood stuff doesn't mean that I'm going to allow a guy like Matt Walsh to say these type of things and express this type of stuff, this coward, this clown, him and Ben Shapiro, cowards and clowns, to say these type of things that directly disrespect and violate God. They violate humanity. It's racist. It's elitist. It's entitled. All these different things. It's an insult to me and my people. Now, what did I say? How I identify my people, right? Earlier, people that align with my principles, morals, and values. It's an insult to my people. It's an insult to Black Americans. It's an insult to indigenous Americans, however you see that. When I don't want to get into the whole conversation, but it's a violation. Do you call out your worst actors? Because let's be real, if more people called out this type of stuff, if more white Americans called this stuff out, then we probably wouldn't have a Matt Walsh feeling so comfortably speaking these things. Just like what's happening with Israel, how pro-Israel Zionists, they're starting to feel a little bit uncomfortable. They're feeling the tide shift. Why does he feel comfortable saying what he's saying? It doesn't matter how many black people stand up against what he's saying, he's still going to feel comfortable. Typically, you start to feel uncomfortable when it's your own people calling you out. So just like I call everybody else out, I got to call out white Americans I've had certain things where people say, hey, Black America, y'all need to hold y'all people in line. Hold your people in line. Hold your people accountable. For all those that just want to identify, and let's be honest, most people, when they say my people, they're talking about it strictly from a race, ethnicity, religion standpoint. So how are you holding your people in line?
Columbus was one of those rare men of history who was so significant that if you remove him from the equation, it fundamentally reshapes everything that came after him. So much so that you, in your current form, likely would not exist.
And a lot of people will say, like I'm seeing a lot of the comments saying that Matt Walsh works for Shapiro. He's a hack. He may be a hack, but you don't think that most Americans feel this way? Are we going to act as if most white Americans don't feel this way? They may not say it. They may not, let's say, oh, okay, what are we going to say? They don't feel it as strongly? What are we celebrating today? We're celebrating Christopher Columbus Day. There's going to be a whole lot of people today that aren't even sensitive to the fact or show any empathy. Forget sensitive. Aren't even empathetic. Where what you gonna say? And I'm talking to all the black people now. What you gonna say when you you go on the job and somebody says tomorrow, how was your Columbus Day? Or somebody may shoot you a text saying Happy Columbus Day. I'm gonna feel violated I'm being totally honest, yo. If a white American, I'm gonna feel violated if a black person does it, but I'm gonna feel like, yo, they just goofy. But it is what it is. If a white American texts me today saying Happy Columbus Day or says Happy Columbus Day to me, I'm gonna feel violated. I'm not saying that I'm gonna do anything, but I'm going to a certain part of me is going to feel violated. And it's like, damn, like when it comes to your atrocities, when it comes to your history, you would never expect me to say something that slaps you in the face when it comes to the death and destruction that was visited upon your people, perhaps, right? Because let's actually look at what Christopher Columbus represents. Christopher and the European colonizers, right? Ben Shapiro wants to pick and choose what he represents as far as why we celebrate him. When I went to Delaware, this statue probably is still up in Delaware. When I went to Delaware, I forget when I went there. I was looking for homes a while ago. And I drove through the downtown of Delaware. I don't even know if they have a downtown. It's so small. It's like Wilmington or something like that. And I drove through down. I saw a big Christopher Columbus statue. I was like, oh. I'm like, damn, that's a little insensitive. See, we typically we choose. See, and you know what's funny about this whole thing? There's certain Americans that are way more sensitive and empathetic to, and I'll give you an example. We walk on eggshells when it comes to Jewish people. When it comes to Israel, right? We're very cautious about the things that we say, right? We're very cautious we'll whisper when we're having these conversations. But you'll just proudly tell people Happy Columbus Day and act as if you won't even think of like, oh, damn, this may be offending this group of people. It won't even cross your mind. But we'll go out of our way to say something that may not even be a disrespectful thing when it comes to Jewish people. But we just, wait, hey, do you want to say that? Hey, shh, yo. A lot of times I'm having conversations like this with people around, and I get the shh for what? Why are you shushing? Why are you so scared to have this conversation? And it's because we have such a fear, such an enslaved mentality when it comes to these elites, such a pussy ass mindset when it comes to the Jewish people and Israel and certain groups. And excuse my language, but sometimes I get very frustrated. Sometimes I get very frustrated about how we allow ourselves to be controlled with certain fear and how we don't have the courage to stand up and say certain things. And we'll be so insensitive to another group of people because we know that we don't even consider it because we know that they don't have the power to impact me. Who am I going to offend saying Happy Columbus Day? Who am I going to offend where I'm going to feel like it's going to maybe cost me my job? Get me in trouble with anybody that actually matters.
Because the course of history would be so different that the specific circumstances that led to your conception would not have occurred. And people like that, the great people, the world shapers, those are the ones that you remember and celebrate and build statues to and dedicate holidays to. He helped to build the Western world. You live in the Western world. You're glad you live here. You would not want to live anywhere else. I know that because you're here and you're not living anywhere else, are you? And you sure as hell would not want to live on this continent if it was still dominated by the Stone Age tribes that Columbus encountered.
No, you wouldn't feel comfortable living here, Matt Walsh. Stone Age, the nerve of, people can come from caves and then talk about another group of people living in the Stone Age. Like, who do you think you are? Like, do you not know your history? Do you not know what the Moors brought to your, who do these people think they are? Oh, because they didn't have advanced technology, that means we should be able to kill them. We should be able to rape and pillage them. Who would want to live in a place without advanced technology? Do you know how many people are trying to live off grid and less technology right now? And Matt Walsh is using this to justify killing and destroying and raping and pillaging people, millions of people. You wouldn't want to live with these Stone Age beings that were here. You wouldn't want to live in these less than people, even though they had the capabilities to build pyramids and all this. You wouldn't want to live in these less than. And you know who I blame? I don't even blame Matt Walsh. I blame us. And when I say us, I'm talking about the righteous folk. I'm talking about the people that I told y'all before, my people. I'm not talking about a race of people. I blame us because we sit back out of fear and don't speak on these things. Don't voice our opinions on certain things. All because we're scared. Because we're scared that our 9 to 5 is going to be compromised. We're scared that the big boss isn't going to like what we say. We're scared to tell people that, nah. That's offensive. Don't say that to me. Why is it okay for y'all to celebrate or not celebrate this person? Why is Hitler, why do we look at Hitler the way we look at Hitler, but then look at Christopher Columbus the way that we look at him? And with all this AI stuff coming out when it comes to these Hitler speeches, that may be some folks' worst nightmare in a lot of ways. Because when I go back and listen to these Hitler speeches, I'm not saying that Hitler was a good man or not. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that the speeches come across a little bit differently than they were presented to me as far as history class. And I'm noticing a pattern of that behavior. I believe somebody just wrote in the chat. What did somebody just write in the chat about their history? What is a model? Shout out to What is a Model wrote. I will never forget my high school AP history class where the teacher broke down who Columbus really was like a decade of propaganda shattered in front of me. Are y'all starting to realize that a lot of these evil people that perhaps were evil? And the reason why I have to say perhaps is because y'all seem to lie. Y'all seem to lie so much about how y'all are presenting these type of people. You lie about Columbus. Just think about how y'all grew up teaching us about Columbus. Why am I in school making a Christopher Columbus? I probably still have it. My mom probably still has it. Why am I making a damn placemat Like we did arts and crafts. We created placemats one year, I think in kindergarten and pre-K. Can you imagine teaching pre-K kids and kindergarten kids that Christopher Columbus is a good man? Is a hero? We don't think that impacts how they grow up, their mindset. Shame on people for allowing that stuff to be taught that way in the school and not then having your kids come home and at the very least teaching them the true understanding of it. Lazy parenting. It seems like y'all tend to lie about the people on both sides. You lie about the villains, and it seems like you lie about who you want us to see as a hero. Why lie? If that person's truly evil, then just present the truth. And I'm sure if they're evil, then I'll look at them as evil. If that person's truly a hero, then present the truth. And if they're a hero, I'm sure the majority of people will look at them as a hero, right?
You wouldn't want that. Those Stone Age tribes that were 5,000 years behind most of the rest of the world, which means that if the Europeans never came here, this whole part of the world would be now about 4,500 years behind. You would not want that. And so you could pretend that you're mourning. It's a tragedy. It's a tragedy. Oh, no, it's not. No, it's not. It's a triumph. The Europeans came here and took over this hemisphere. It's a triumph. I celebrate it. You should celebrate. We should all celebrate it. And life in this part of the world, again, it's not one that you would want. It would be a life that does not include any of the things that give you joy and meaning. Any of the things that bring you comfort. Indigenous culture was primitive and brutal and absolutely caked in violence and warfare all the time as a way of life. Okay, so you living in an indigenous tribe, those wonderful, peaceful, Pocahontas indigenous tribes, it means that every night when you go to sleep for your whole life, which is probably going to be brutally short, you're always worried all the time about the raiding party coming in the middle of the night and slaughtering you in your sleep. Because by the way, that's usually how they did it. They didn't fight pitched battles. The idea of having sort of dignity in the way that you fight, a sense of kind of justice and fairness. I mean, that was an approach to warfare that was distinctly European. The so-called indigenous people, they didn't see it that way. Going to war with someone just means killing as many of them as you can by any means necessary. That usually meant sneaking in the middle of the night and killing them and their women and children, or taking their women and children as sex slaves. So that's what it would have meant. It means that if you were a man, that every time you lay your head on the pillow, well, you didn't have a pillow, but anytime you laid down in your teepee to go to sleep, you may wake up to find a knife at your throat and your scalp being ripped off of your head. And if you're a woman or a child, at any moment, you could find yourself being carried away to a life of enslavement and sexual torture.
Y'all mind if I run that back a couple minutes? Just a minute or so? The reason why is because I got a little bit distracted. I'm going to show y'all something real quick. Let me show y'all something real quick. There it goes. There it goes. Can we zoom in? Hold on. Let me see if I can give this full screen. I don't know if I could, if there's like a full screen way of looking at this. No, that's the, look at this. And I know my mom keeps it for a reason. I don't even have to ask her. I know it's a reminder. I know it's a reminder in a lot of ways, and I've told y'all before that my family is Native American, indigenous, whatever you want to call it. But just look at this. It says, follow the dream. This is the bullshit that my teacher had me doing in school when I was a kid. Follow the dream. Can you imagine a Native American kid? I tell y'all all the time, like on my mom's side, a Black or Native American kid, whatever you want to call it, because when you do I don't know, y'all know I don't believe that all Black people came over on the transatlantic slave trade. I just think that that's pretty far-fetched. It is what it is. But can you imagine the indoctrination of sitting a child down and having them celebrate Christopher Columbus Day and writing "Follow the Dream"? I'm looking at my handwriting. I was a little advanced as a child, I will say that. But I'm almost thinking that I want to say that it looks like second grade work, but I think it's kindergarten, because I think I did it at Nishawin. I only went there for pre-K and kindergarten. And I wrote "Follow the Dream" on a ship that was representing Christopher Columbus. This is what happens, and I'm not talking about my parents, but this is just overall, because I told you I grew up looking at Malcolm X. I had a strong connection with Malcolm X. We have the same birthday. I grew up seeing the world more through a Malcolm X mindset than a Martin Luther King, just to be totally honest, from a young kid. But when you have parents that choose to be ignorant, choose not to prioritize educating your kids, could you imagine what most kids are growing up when they're doing this type of thing and they're learning about Christopher Columbus and it's shaping how they'll eventually see the world, or how obviously that always evolves as we go along. But just think about that. Like, I'm over here celebrating Christopher Columbus, and Big Bro Steve wrote, "I bet you got an A though." Of course I got an A. I'm trying to tell y'all I was an advanced student. Vons, you in the chat, but it's not even advanced student. I just listened to my parents when it came to that. They said you have to get good grades, so I had to get. And I was a competitor. I'm competing. I looked at that no different than sports. I'm competing. I just sit back and I'm just amazed every time I see that. Because my mom will bring it up every once in a while, like, "Remember what you made for Christopher Columbus?" Hold on. Okay, all right. So I was a little bit older. Hold on. My mom's texting me. My mom's texting me now. She said the back has the date. It was October 10th, 1994. Oh my God. That was 31 years ago? Damn. I'm old, man. All right, so I was 7. I was 7 years old. And see, now Ragnar being funny. Put your 7-year-old artwork against mine, and we'll see who came out on top. And I was never the most artsy, but whatever. Ragnar taking shots. But I was 7 years old. So with that may be first grade. So maybe I did it in first grade. And Steve wrote, "Moms are always so good with the dates." That's a fact. All right, let's get back to the video. While I'm reminiscing about my amazing Christopher Columbus artwork. Let's get back to the video.
That came after him. So much so that you, in your current form, likely would not exist, because the course of history would be so different that the specific circumstances that led to your conception would not have occurred. And people like that, the great people, the world shaper,
I wanted to rewind, but
most of the rest of the world, which means that if the Europeans never came here, this whole part of the world would be now about 4,500 years behind.
Yeah, the nerve.
You would not want that. And so you could pretend that you're mourning. It's a tragedy. It's a tragedy.
Thanks, Kay.
No, it's not. No, it's not. It's a triumph. The Europeans came here and took over this hemisphere. It's a triumph. I celebrate it. You should celebrate. We should all celebrate it. and life in this part of the world, again, it's not one that you would want. It would be a life that does not include any of the things that give you joy and meaning, any of the things that bring you comfort. Indigenous culture was primitive and brutal and absolutely caked in violence and warfare all the time.
What did he just say? Yo, do y'all hear the privilege? Indigenous living was violent. Imagine somebody conquering a group of people by using violence, raping and pillaging and doing whatever, scalping. The American government, whatever it was called at that time, they were paying people to scalp Indians, to scalp indigenous people. And he's talking about how brutal life was for these indigenous people.
That bring you comfort.
Oh my God.
Indigenous culture was primitive and brutal and absolutely caked in violence and warfare all the time.
This is the same thing that they do with Hamas, right? It's like Hamas, they committed such atrocities. They're terrorists. They're this, they're that. Oh, Israel? No, they're just defending themselves. Well, how do we decipher between what's defense? I'm pretty sure Hamas would say that they were defending themselves and the oppression that they live under, and ever since their land was stolen from them. This is demonic.
As a way of life. Okay, so you living in an indigenous tribe, those wonderful, peaceful, Pocahontas indigenous tribes, it means that every night when you go to sleep for your whole life, which is probably going to be brutally short, you're always worried all the time about the raiding party coming in the middle of the night and slaughtering you in your sleep. Because by the way, that's usually how they did it. They didn't.
So he's saying that every night, if you were an indigenous group of people here. Now, I don't know what makes his history so extensive in this area, but it does come across, pretty convenient. But he's saying that every night, these tribes, like, they should be thanking Europeans, because if it wasn't for the Europeans coming, then every night you'd have to be worried about somebody coming in and conquering your land and doing the very same things that he's saying that Christopher Columbus and Europeans did.
Fight pitched battles. The idea of having sort of dignity in the way that you fight, a sense of kind of justice and fairness. I mean, that was an approach to warfare that was distinctly European. The so-called indigenous people, they didn't see it that way. Going to war with someone just means killing as many of them as you can by any means necessary. And that usually meant sneaking in the middle of the night and killing them and their women and children, or taking their women and children as sex slaves. So that's what it would have meant. It means that if you were a man, that every time you lay your head on the pillow, well, you didn't have a pillow, but anytime you laid down in your teepee to go to sleep, you may wake up to find a knife at your throat and your scalp being ripped off of your head. And if you're a woman or a child, at any moment, you could find yourself being carried away to a life of enslavement and sexual torture. That's what life was for these indigenous tribes. Like, that's what it was. Gentlemen, this Columbus Day, don't let woke.
Yo, it's insane. But I'm telling you, I don't know if y'all are getting the same feeling, but this is the same thing. It just sounds like he's talking about Israel, Palestine. It sounds like to me that he's talking about Israel, Palestine. It sounds like we'll talk about, and this is what happens, where this is why I condemn violence, and I'm just not for violence, and I'm just not for wars, because people think that, we committed our war this way. Those savages, they did it that way. So therefore, it's the way that they went about doing it. It's the way that they killed all these people. It's the way that they destroyed and committed a genocide that makes that one okay, but this one not. Yo, people like Matt Walsh. Oh man. Oh man. Oh man. Yeah. This is how my mind typically works, just so y'all know. I know what I want to say, and I usually like a couple ways of saying it usually pop into my head, and I try to go with the one that gets the point across of exactly what I'm trying to say, but that also is not said in a way where I don't want to use the word offensive, because I really don't mind offending people. I don't go with the intent of offending people, but if you say certain things, just the truth in a direct way, a lot of times it's going to offend people. So that's not what it is, but it's just saying it in a way where people can't write it off as, but am I? Nope. I'm just going to say it. Thought about it. Just going to say it. Let me. You know what it comes down to? Because the discussion is usually centered around like a Columbus or like a Hitler. Because to be totally honest, when it comes to American history, as far as the history that I was brought up on with the public school education, when you think about white people who caused evil and destruction, you really only learn about a couple people. Now, Columbus, we end up learning about that later on because people start pushing back, saying we shouldn't be celebrating Columbus Day. And then you learn about Hitler, right? You don't really learn about too many other people to that extent, which is kind of wild when even as I'm sitting here thinking about it. But here you're celebrating. I just have to go back to this. I just want us to understand this, that Hitler wanted Jewish people to leave Germany, right? He wanted to ethnically cleanse Germany of Jewish people, right? I just don't understand how the same people that will call Hitler a devil will celebrate Christopher Columbus. And when I say I don't understand that, maybe that's a lie. I do understand it. Well, let me not say that. I do understand it. Like the reason why I said that's a lie is because I know that Matt Walsh, in my mind, or Ben Shapiro, it's not like, I'm confused, Ben Shapiro. How could you celebrate Christopher Columbus, but then look at Hitler as an evil person? Like, I'm not confused about that. But I am confused about the average person that may not be pushing things with a political agenda like a Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro knows, he just doesn't care. He just needs to push a certain agenda, so that's what he does. But for the average person in America, like, I think we need to be challenged and say, like, how are you celebrating Christopher Columbus, but then villainizing Hitler? I just saw this video. Hold on. Let me actually show this. Let me actually show this video. Jesse Owens, Hitler. Let me see if I can find this video. I just saw it in my, here it is right here. I was like, am I going to be able to find this video? Take a look at this. I want to bring this up for a reason. Share this tab instead. And then we're going to, we got to get out of here soon. It's almost 10. Is it being shared? All right, perfect. Take a look at this video.
Hitler do to black people in what did Adolf Hitler do to black people in Nazi Germany?
Most hold on.
And historians say Hitler was.
I don't know why I just did that. Hold on.
What did Adolf Hitler do to black people in Nazi Germany? Most news.
I don't know why it's not letting me play the video. Hold on. Let me shrink it.
What did Adolf Hitler do to black people?
Let me shrink it and try to play it again.
What did Adolf Hitler do to black people in Nazi Germany? Most news reports and historians say Hitler was fueled by hatred against non-white people.
Hold on. It's not letting me play it for some reason, but it's cool. We're gonna work around this. Watch this. Hold on. We're gonna go to this playlist. Damn. This is y'all know who we gotta blame. Oh man. All right, this should work. I don't know why the other one wasn't working.
What did Adolf Hitler do to black people in Nazi Germany? Most news reports and historians say Hitler was fueled by hatred against non-white people. But how were black people who went to Nazi Germany actually treated? During the 1936 Berlin Olympics, the famous African-American athlete Jesse Owens wrote in his autobiography that he received the biggest cheer of his career from the German audience. Hitler even warmly greeted him. Owens stated that Hitler didn't ignore him. It was President Roosevelt who did, not even sending him a telegram. Owens also mentioned that while in Berlin, German people often stopped him in the street to congratulate him on his achievements.
The point of a Christopher Columbus statue is not all the bad.
Let me get this clown off my screen. Hold on. So my question would be, and a lot of y'all, shout out to y'all because y'all already knew about it. Was Hitler a bad guy? I can feel my dad's tension and stress, and my mom sitting here like, well, what is he about to say? I'm asking the question because how do we judge somebody being bad or not, or evil? Do we judge it based on how they treat you, or do we judge it based on how they treat, like, or they're who they are and how they have treated the world, other people? And for most people, it's probably a combination of both. And if they didn't have a personal experience, then they'll base it off of how that person treated other people that are in that person's group, their ethnic group, right? So for instance, Ben Shapiro never met Hitler or had any way of, interacting with him. I don't believe so. I think I could say that pretty confidently. So therefore, he's judging who Hitler is based on how Hitler treated his people, as far as Jewish people, right? Okay, cool. So should black people do the same thing? Should black people judge Hitler based on how he treated other people, or should we judge him based on how he treated Jesse Owens? Our people. Hitler treated him with respect, congratulated him, showed him love. The rest of the Germans did the same. But who did they say? It was Roosevelt. Roosevelt never even congratulated him. So I'm just asking the question. Because when it comes to Christopher Columbus, Ben Shapiro's trying to tell me and tell Americans that we should be celebrating Christopher Columbus, that we should be celebrating, and Matt Walsh, that we should be celebrating the European colonizers. Why? Maybe we should label them both as evil. I would expect somebody who thinks Hitler's evil to say that Christopher Columbus is evil, right? Did you hear the excuses that Ben Shapiro was making when we played that video earlier? Well, we're not saying for the women and the kid, and the women that he raped and the pillaging and the European and the scalps that they took. We're not celebrating for that. We're celebrating for him for other reasons, like what he represented. Well, should Germans feel the same thing about Hitler? Oh, well, he was just trying to protect Germans. do we learn about how, and why do we only learn about how evil Hitler was? Weren't Jewish people kicked out of other countries as well and targeted? Like, isn't that something that y'all express to us, and about how, especially when it comes to the black and the Jewish struggle, right? I always hear a lot of my Jewish friends and other people saying, oh, well, you know, we share in our oppression because, you know, we were mistreated in a lot of countries, just like. But why do we only learn about Hitler? Why is Hitler bad, Christopher Columbus good? I'm just asking. Like, I really want to know. And what it and you know, when you start lying to people, it makes somebody like me, I don't know about all of y'all, but it makes me question, like, hold up. Why do you want me to hate this person so much? Is there something you're hiding from me? Because when it comes to this person, you want me to hate them based on principles, morals, and values, right? But this person, you want me to ignore the principles, morals, and values. So I'm just trying to figure out what's what. But let's get back to a couple more minutes of Matt Walsh, and then we'll finish this up, and I'll let y'all go on y'all way, if that's okay.
Native cultures, I find it fascinating to study. I think I'm very interested in studying Indian tribes. I have nothing against the Indians. I think that there was, although there was all this brutality and all of this, there was also bravery and strength. But it was an inferior society. It was an inferior society. Inferior, you might say, well, how could you say inferior? I don't know, because it was inferior in every measurable way. Technology, art, philosophy, science, development, and morality. Superior in all of those ways, which is.
Yo, this is wow. Matter of fact, maybe we as America, because I'm American, maybe we should go pick and choose some countries that are not as superior as us technologically. Or maybe China should come over and just destroy America. Maybe isn't China more advanced than the United States technology-wise? I think we could say. Maybe they should come over here and conquer America. Like, wait, is that the justification that we're given? Maybe if Matt Walsh is inferior to me physically, then I should go take his wife. Maybe if I'm walking around Jersey, New York, and Miami, and I see certain groups of people that are not as physically superior to me, I don't think it. Maybe they'll prove me wrong. Does that give me the green light to go do something? Like what? White Americans, y'all got to call out this bad behavior. I'm asking y'all. I call out the bad behavior in my community, right? Come on. This is not okay. How can he say this on? It's like when we think about what people have been canceled for, you think about a Kanye. Okay, Kanye said some terrible things. Okay. What did Kanye say that's worse than what he's saying? He's giving a green light to people being killed because their technology wasn't as advanced. He's celebrating Christopher Columbus and the things that they did because, like, you're justifying a Holocaust. You're justifying a Holocaust. And Matt Walsh, it's okay for him to be on a Jewish platform, Ben Shapiro's platform, justifying a Holocaust that Christopher Columbus and other European colonizers committed while on a Jewish platform in which Jewish people, it's almost like we grow up in America thinking that a Holocaust just means Jewish people. How is he not canceled on this platform? How do we not cancel him? How do we not stand up? Where's the ADL at? Where's the ADL? Where's Jonathan Greenblatt? We know y'all care so much about Holocaust. Yo, we got to address this. Where's AIPAC? Let's finish off with that. Speaking of, since we're on the subject, or should I save that for another? Let's finish off. Hold on. Let's finish off. Matter of fact, that's too long to consider. No. That would have caused a whole nother conversation, honestly. With all that said, life is amazing. We all have the opportunity to impact it in different ways, but we have to hold ourselves accountable to a standard. We have to hold ourselves accountable to a standard, and sometimes that standard is speaking against certain things that we don't typically feel comfortable speaking out against, taking certain risks, forcing ourselves to learn certain things, so therefore we can take responsibility and see it as an obligation to teach this to our kids, to teach this to the next generation, so they're not manipulated and bamboozled by the same things. So they're not manipulated and controlled by the same things. So they're not going to school and making Christopher Columbus placemats. See, we don't have an excuse now. Our parents' generation and our grandparents, they may not have had all the information that we have. They had different focuses. They were coming out of a different struggle. So where their goal may have been to take us from A to B or A to C or B to C, whatever that would have been, we can't just sit here. We have to keep pushing, right? And let me be clear, when I say my people, I don't mean just black people. And what I don't mean, I'm not saying black people. What I'm saying is people that align with my principles, morals, and values. When we start looking at things as, oh, this is my people because they're black or this ethnic group, we see what happens with that. Just look around at the world, the death and destruction that's happening and being validated based on it being my people rather than their people, right? My people against their people. And it being designated a group based on ethnicity, religion, race. Sometimes people can pick and choose whatever makes the most sense for them, whatever benefits them in that moment. Oh, no, we're a religious group. Oh, no, we're ethnicity. Oh, no, we're race. Oh, cool. All right. The more we have these combos, I'm going to need y'all getting involved in these super chats. I'm going to start asking y'all for $1 a show. No, to be totally honest, God is looking out for me. Robert's looking out for me, my parents, my friends, and supporters. And I want to make it very clear that even if y'all are just not, I don't mean to say even, if y'all are watching the show, especially if you're engaging in the comments, that is super appreciated. Because it helps. It helps because We've had these same combos where you feel like why are you risking saying this stuff and having this stuff on the internet forever to talk to 10 people. So the fact that it's 34, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. Oh man. Ragnar wrote, when I get rich, I'm going to move to O Block to live a better life. But I mean, depending on how long it takes you to get rich, I'm sure O Block will be gentrified, turned into some luxury apartment soon. That's what typically happens, right? So, all right, most important part of the show, do not leave, but do make sure that you like and subscribe real quick. If you haven't already, turn your notifications on. Most important part of the show, I think we need to take a minute today. I think we need to take at least a minute today. All right, shout out to my brother Vons, man. This is my brother that I grew up with. YouTube gonna get you lit. Keep the videos going. I'm gonna keep up the videos as long as y'all keep tapping in. As long as y'all keep tapping in and supporting, I'm gonna keep it going. We can agree on that. We can definitely agree on that. If you're in Ukraine, God be with you, my brother or sister. Keep strong. Keep the fight up. From what we understand in America, Russia's almost ready to go broke. Ragnar, all right. Shout out to Ragnar. Kay wrote, engagement is important. Treat all people with respect. The golden rule, treat others the way that we want to be treated. Simple as that. All right, 60 seconds, meditate, manifest, get your breath work in. Y'all know what we like to do. Every inhale, we're inhaling positive energy. Every exhale, we're getting rid of all the negative, limiting energy that we may have, where we're looking at ourselves as less than, not feeling confident. Everything on the inhale is confidence, positive thoughts, affirmative thoughts, us affirming that we are who we believe we are. Inhaling our godly nature, our godly being, right? A caring nature, all these different things. So let's make sure that we're actually feeling all that positive energy coming in. And then in the negative, we're releasing it, right? Like we taking a number two, like how you release that. Yeah, we're releasing all that negative energy. We're purging ourselves from all that energy. I believe that's the right word to use. All right, so 60 seconds. If you're in a safe place, close your eyes. Why is my screen frozen in the background? It is what it is. But 60 seconds, if you're in a safe place, close your eyes if you want, or leave them open. But we're going to be for 60 seconds starting now. All right, we got exhale, then inhale. We're inhaling all the positive, and on this next exhale, we're getting rid of that last bit of negative, limiting energy. Feel it leave your system. Feel it leave your system. All right. Now we're just circulating positive energy, positive vibes. That's what it's all about. And I want to be very clear. Everybody has their own role that they're playing. As I was sitting there, processing the show, processing during my 60 seconds, I was thinking about, even when I call people out to say, hey, speak on this, address this, we need you to stand up. And especially when I was calling out white Americans, I want to be very clear that you don't have to start a YouTube page. You don't have to go on Instagram and start saying, you don't have to do all that, but figure out a way that allows you to just maybe interact in your community, in your bubble that you may live in, to just make sure that you're understanding and seeing things through a certain perspective, where you may be calling yourself out about certain ways that you view certain things that you didn't even realize how they may be. How can I put this? Not aligned with your godly principles, not aligned with your morals, your values, your principles. But you may just be doing it just because we're so accustomed to doing so. So when I say speak out on those things, a lot of times it's just living it. A lot of times it's just living it. You may have a conversation come up where you may have just shared one perspective. Now you're willing to share maybe a different perspective. Now maybe you just may have a conversation amongst your friends and families that say like, yo, look, like I never even realized I was looking at it like this. I never even realized when I'm saying happy Columbus Day to people, I'm just happy about getting a day off. I didn't really care about with him, right? So it's just us being a little bit more conscious, not villainizing anybody, but us just being more conscious of the impact that we're making and the energy that we're putting out. I think that it's very important. And so shout out to Soldier Soul Rack. Hopefully I'm pronouncing it correctly, man. Appreciate that. Definitely appreciate you showing love. Like I said, it goes a long way. I think Unc sent over a video, so we'll make sure that we're checking that out. Critical Thinking wrote, remember this, only 3% of the people in the country fought for independence. Rest didn't care. That's kind of, that's, you know what's also so funny? There's so many different situations like that, where it's like 3% may fight, 8% of white people may have owned slaves, but who was complicit, who was this, who was that. So there's a lot of things that we kind of throw on a group that everybody may not have had the influence on it that we tend to see. But I guess that's for each of us, as I was talking about a couple seconds ago, that's for each of us to determine maybe how we can make an impact, how we can just make a positive impact. And I was going to say it could be little, but it's not even little. It could be on any level. Just figure out what role to a certain point, you have to be comfortable playing it, but maybe push your comfort level a little bit more and more as you go on. And maybe even you having these conversations that you may be intimidated or scared to have, maybe you'll realize that once you start talking about it, it actually opened the door for other people to talk about it, about things where they may have been feeling it. So once again, shout out to Soldier Soul Rack. Shout out to K My Way. K sent the fire emojis. Look, Big Bro Steve wrote, the secret to change is to focus all of your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new. I love that, Big Bro. And being the change. We always talk about being the change that we want to see in the rest of the world. That's all we have to do. So y'all know what we come here to do, elevate on purpose, both from an intentional standpoint, raising our standards to become the best leaders we can become. Like I said, everybody's role is going to be different. How you lead within your role. Everybody doesn't have to be leading with a microphone. Just lead within your role. We all have a role to play. And if we look at ourselves as leaders, as we embrace those roles, we will move in a positive direction. All right. We want to challenge ourselves in that area, as well as challenge ourselves to grow into the people that we need to grow into. Like I said, challenging ourselves, right? Getting out of our comfort zone a little bit, because as we grow, then we may get more and more comfortable doing certain things. Then we're going to be more and more comfortable pushing ourselves out of our comfort zone and challenging ourselves to grow. Because a lot of these goals that we have, they may be seen as audacious or too big, or maybe even arrogant, obnoxious to certain people. But we know what we're capable of. We're godly beings. So strength and honor, onward and upward. Y'all know what I mean when I say get to that bag. If y'all don't, all the quote unquote little things that we know add up to the big things and the big picture that we're going to do throughout the hour, throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout the month, throughout the year, that are ultimately going to factor into what becomes our personal legend, our impact on the world. And the things that we focus on, that we talk about, are in our bag. That's what's going to make sure that it's serving as our compass and making sure that we're on the proper trajectory to accomplish the things that we want to accomplish in this world. So y'all got to figure out what's in y'all bag. The things that I like to focus on: peace, love, happiness, health, wealth, and integrity in everything we do. And of course, y'all know we got to factor in that balance. So on that note, I shall see y'all soon. Y'all know how we finish out the show. Quee sent the fire emojis. Appreciate all y'all. Love all y'all. Y'all have an amazing day. Happy Columbus Day. Let me after all that. Bro, you got to be serious sometimes. Man, have an amazing day. Happy godly day, where hopefully you can approach the day with just an understanding and a confidence to be the best version of yourself. So on that note, y'all have a good one, man. Appreciate y'all. Love y'all.